We've all got chills, and it's not because of the weather.
Well,
it's
Ron
because of the
McLean
song.
talks
the
about
Megastars,
chills,
Montreal,
and you look at that setup there with the ice in the middle of Commonwealth Stadium. And Kevin, for you as general manager, responsible for an NHL game worth 2 points, the organizing and all the work that went into it, what's going through your mind in the days leading up to this moment?
Well, a remarkable picture there, the blue sky and the fans and the ice looked so nice. I mean, it was obviously the weather was the biggest concern for me, and whether or not the game would actually go off. The ice ended up being the biggest problem. The weather was tolerable, but for 72 hours, as soon as the cold weather rolled into Edmonton, there was some concerns, and we're just awfully glad that it did.
Well,
happen.
what's amazing is in the end, the weather ended up what made it such an even more monumental event. I mean, you look at Ron McLean in the middle of the fans, that picture there with steam coming off the ice and off the benches, it became, maybe early on anyways, one of the biggest parts of the story.
That picture is amazing. It's just, yeah, and you're right. I think for years down the road, the picture of the players and their breath coming out. I mean, it looks like a Green Bay Packer game, a famous game, and I think that's what we wanted to create. I know all the people involved from the Oilers' perspective, that's what we wanted to, that's what we had in our minds, was a field of dreams of hockey, and I think it was created that day.
Well, it was created with Mess and Gretz, and you look at, in that room on the practice day Friday, you got a feeling again of what it was like around that circus, with so many people around, and Mark and Wayne back together again.
Nothing had changed, really. It's amazing. Mess has got a few less hairs on his head,
and they're gray.
Hunts a few more pounds, but what really was striking to me, Simmer, was how much fun everybody was having. The smiles on their faces were all legitimate. It wasn't a put on. They were having a great time.
Well, in the end, it is just a game, and I know that the NHL game, the Oilers and Habs, was the main focus, but getting a chance to be back in that room with Coffey, Grant Fuhr, Messier, Gretzky, yourself, Andy, Curry, Tick. For me, it was just such a flashback of memories and an opportunity to share a time in our lives that even now as a coach or as a general manager, you don't get that same. You get a little bit of it with us, but to me that's what was the amazing feeling.
All the memories, Fogelin, Semenko, Lumley, Chipperfield. I've been essentially 25 years in the NHL, and to be able to look across the room at Ron Chipperfield, our first ever captain, and wondering what's going through his mind, I'm sure is the same as what's going through our minds. But I think all of us, safe to say, wanted that day to last for a lot longer than it did.
Well, I think what was amazing, too, is you saw the competitiveness. The Montreal Canadiens organization trying to put together an alumni team that would be competitive with ours. And, how did it come to be that it was the Canadiens and maybe not some other team?
Well, originally, we were thinking a global thing. We thought, we wanted it to be the field of dreams of hockey, and we really wanted to put hockey on the map. So the New York Rangers came to mind because of the Mystery Alaska game,
yeah, right.
And that whole thing. And the Rangers, have a great following in the States, and we thought the U.S. coverage and the Canadian coverage. So, a U.S.-based team, probably the Rangers. And then the leagues got involved and thought, well, it's more of a Canadian thing, and who better than the Montreal Canadiens? Of course, we agreed. Storied franchises, both, particularly the Canadiens, and we had some history in the playoffs, and all those things came together. The French-English thing, and after it was all said and done, I don't think we could have picked a better team to play in this game than the Canadiens.
Well, we saw there Glenn Sather, Ted Green, John Muckler, and I think one thing that hit me, you talked about the smiles of the players. I think what hit me more than anything was seeing the smiles of Barry Fraser there, our head scout, but Slats behind that bench, it was like an old glove that fits so well. I mean, he just had a smile on his face the entire time.
Said it's all the same things, as I said earlier. It was just like nothing had changed. You imagine Barry Fraser's living in Mexico now.
Coming up.
And I remember when we contacted Barry, he was really pleased about it, and he was as much an architect of the championship teams as Glenn Sather. He was responsible for drafting all those players, and we had such a close-knit organization and team to have had that success, and everybody shared in it. But Glenn was certainly the guy that led the way without question.
Well, Kev, this to me was really the first and only time that it was darn cold. Standing out here, I think what buffered it a little bit was looking up into the stands and seeing the people all bundled up in parkas. You got sleeping bags and everyone's faces there, but standing there for that moment, you realize, man, this is a special event. But boy, it's cold.
Yeah, my fingertips and my toes were kind of cold. But I have bad circulation anyway, so I thought I'm hoping not everybody else is feeling. But really, I knew that once we got going, it wasn't going to be that bad. I was most concerned about the fans sitting in the stands.
Well, now I think for the Canadiens, it was a great weekend for them. They had a wonderful experience. You look at Marty. Some things never change. A great story of Marty coming through the VIP tent, grabbing a guy's 2 hot dogs and eating one along the way. And I think again the characters of the game will never die, and it doesn't matter what age or how long they've not been around each other. It's good to get those pranks back together.
And seeing Guy Lapointe, we played against Guy in the playoffs that year. I think Dave Hunter and he had a little scrap because Hunts was giving Guy Lafleur a rough time, and now that Guy Lapointe, a lot of these guys are involved in hockey, either scouting or coaching or whatever, but to see them all assembled again, I know that they could sit in the room like we are today discussing this and have all the same stories just to add to the whole excitement of the day.
Well, you see Larry Robinson and you talk about, the reaction that the Edmonton fans give one of the greats from another organization. And yeah, I think the feel-good memories were such a big part of it. I know you personally, Lee was a big influence on your early career. It must have been great to be back together with him on the line.
Yeah, it was the 2 guys that I played most with, Lee Fogel and Craig Muni. It was tough for me because
Which one are you going to pick?
That's right. Well, I wanted to play with both of them. It turns out that certainly for sentimental reasons, all the right reasons, I started playing with for the first few games or shifts with Lee, but wanted to make sure I played with Craig Muni because they were my partners in Stanley Cup championships. But Lee Foglen, I think, epitomized the Edmonton Oilers thing right from day one, to hand his captaincy to Wayne Gretzky because he felt it was right. Wayne was ready, and I know Wayne's never forgot it, and I think it was instrumental in the early formation of the Oilers' character and success. Those guys, a wonderful thing. Lee's boys playing in the Western Hockey League now, and like a lot of players, Lucien Dubois' kids playing, and
it's good to see it come full circle.
That's right. It's nice to see the turnover of players.
Well, at this moment, what's going through your mind?
The game actually going through. We had talked with the Players Association earlier in the morning. There was concerns. And, Gary Bettman and Patrick LaForge, Coley Campbell, everybody was in on it. Everybody wanted to see the game go, but we didn't want to risk the fans, the players. Didn't want anyone injured. There was a lot of things. So I have to confess, I didn't enjoy the whole day as much as I should have because
more responsibility and worry,
until the final game was over. And it was a bit of a relief and perceived a success, except we lost the hockey game. So again, it was a bit of a downer. So I'm kind of complaining a bit.
Well, Kenny Linsman, his biggest problem early on was his goggles kept fogging up. The cold was wreaking havoc. But what struck me most, Kevin, and getting a chance to be a part of the latter part of the dynasty at the end of the 80s was, you mentioned the names before, but guys who either had left under, I got traded for Paul Coffey and, an unceremonious trade for Paul not coming and holding out. But in the end, the common bind and the respect for the organization and the respect for what the team was built, didn't matter how you left, it was really evident there that everybody felt such a strong bind to the Oilers organization.
Yeah, and we're all willing to come to play a part of history, but also pay tribute to the Oilers organization. I'm sure not unlike the Montreal Canadiens, and I have to say that toque, I keep looking at the toque the Canadiens had, was, what a great thing. I think they had one up on us on the whole day by having that toque. But they have, you know, a special fondness to that organization, and rightfully so because of the rich history and tradition. But we're trying to build our own in Edmonton.
You see the reaction Sammy got, and Kev, you know the sanctity of the bus, but being at the back of the bus with Semenk and his little barbs was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that bus ride over, those are the moments that you remember most because, you know, there's other times there's lots of people involved, but the bus ride was good. How about you? What were you thinking going out there?
Well, I think it was amazing at just the amount of people. I think you're really, you know, I've been to Commonwealth for football games and that, but to be down on the field now, the ice surface, and looking at the support and reaction of the fans, you know, you don't get to relive those special athletic moments now that you're retired, and I think getting a chance to do it again was a thrill.
You know, I thought when I saw the people, the support staff on the sidelines with the white outfits on, I said, this is the Olympics.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I don't know whether
Had
they had
that
the same
atmosphere,
music
didn't it?
or anything, but I said, wow, this is the Olympics right here in Edmonton.
Well, Glenn Anderson was one of my wingers, Andy and Mess, for 6 years here. And again, you know, you talk about character guys who love the game. Andy, you know, the night before at Legends Live got his video camera out, and you know, I think I found it interesting that he, maybe more than anyone, soaked up the atmosphere, and like Andy has always done, soaked up the life energy that came from this event.
And travesty that it's not in the Hall of Fame.
Unbelievable. I almost wanted to say that
the
the Legends Live night, to say, look at the other players who have been voted in. I mean, you look at the epitome of big game player, and that's Andy.
You know, if he's has 498 goals, a couple more, maybe that milestone would be enough to do it. But you talk to Messier and Gretzky and Curry and all these guys, and they'll tell you Anderson deserves to be there with them.
What a great event and great moment for Mark. You know, after 25 years in the National Hockey League, second all-time in points, I really felt from sitting on the bench with him, this was a moment that he did not want to miss, and it would not have made his career. You know, I think it's a real testament to Glenn and the Rangers to let him go, but he was like a kid.
For everybody in the Rangers organization, starting with Glenn, to see the big picture, this game was more about just an old-timers thing. You know, this was about the celebration of hockey, trying to put hockey on the map, and you have to have the game's greatest players there, and Messier was a part of the Edmonton thing. And, you know, at first there was a negative reaction, but if Messier wasn't playing with Lafleur and Gretzky and the likes of Robinson, it wouldn't have been right. There would have been, everybody would have said they're missing something.
One guy missing. And for Wayne, you know the history, you know how many great moments he's had, but this one seemed to affect him quite a bit, didn't you think?
He wanted to bring Janet and the kids back to Edmonton, and they experience everything, you know, the hockey feel, the people. I mean, this is it really, 50-odd thousand people, and the weather and all those. I'm sure the kids from California, they weren't dressed for it.
Where's my hand, Dad? I can't feel them.
But you know, he, like Wayne and everybody you've mentioned, they really enjoyed their time there. It was special for them.
Well, a great moment before the game, and it's funny, Larry Robinson coming to our bench and said there was Messier and Anderson going wide when the snowbirds came flying through. And as Sammy always does, he piped up and said, hey, what about me? And you remember when that big F-18 came later, he came back and said, Sammy, that's you coming late. So, a pretty special moment. That was, again, the crowd getting so pumped up and having them come so close to the ice surface was really such a powerful event.
I was daydreaming a bit, still wondering about whether the game was going over, and it scared the heck out of me.
Kind of ironic when you think about how everyone was expecting so much offense that it was actually the goalies that stole the show. And like Grant has done so many times, what a special day it was for him.
Well, it sort of speaks to the analysis of the game that's going on in the country, and throughout the hockey world presently about, need more goals or need this. I've often said one of the greatest games in Edmonton Oilers history was a 1-0 game. And, you just want good hockey. You want plays on both ends. Sometimes great goaltending is as good as great scoring. So it was nice to see. And, yeah, very ironic that the goaltenders would be the standouts with all these great scorers on the ice.
Well, the only thing about the ice, with it being -20, it was so chippy, and we had already had the warm-up that, it wasn't exactly Gretz and Curry's type ice to be moving the puck around. But we get a little break here with Guy hitting the goal post, and maybe that's where we knew our luck was going to go our way.
Yeah. It would have been, I would have been -1 there.
Jumping up in the play, though, I think.
Yeah, I think that's where I pulled both my groins. I'll never be the same.
You just bear down and try to get through the rest of the game, huh?
Well, I figured my kids were there. I had to get on the score sheet. If I was going to do it, it had to be early.
Well, I think for Mark, it was interesting watching him too. It's the balance where he didn't want to he didn't want to embarrass himself, but he didn't want to go too hard because he is a active NHL player. But I thought it was the perfect balance, and half the time you ended up watching the stands and just feeling the atmosphere.
Well, I'm sure if the Canadiens had gone ahead, that he would have turned it up a little more. You're absolutely right. He was just pacing himself, and so fitting that Kenny Linsman would score. I mean, he scored. We talk about McClellan's big goal in
1-0 game
on the Islanders, but that the goals that Linsman scored against Calgary. When the Flames, we were playing the Flames, the series, a couple series before that were huge goals for the organization as well.
Well, it was a great feeling to see a puck go in, listen to the crowd again, and that's the one thing that you can never recreate. In your life, getting out there and scoring a goal, and the roar of the crowd at Rexall Place or Northlands when we played. It was a great feeling, but open air, -20, 58,000 people, it still gives you a little bit of a shiver.
Well, you know that feeling a lot better than I do, but although I have heard the roar of the crowd just when someone else has scored. But, when we scored that early, I think a lot of people probably felt, well, this is going to be like an all-star game. It's going to be 13-11 or something, and there were some good chances. I don't know if the quality of the ice, which wasn't certainly up to snuff because it was so cold and the ice became so brittle, played into the lack of goals. I think there was scoring opportunities where the puck rolled up on guys, but at the end of the day, 10 years from now, no one will remember that. This is just a great picture here.
Well, I think it was interesting. You see Ludwig and Robinson, who had played together. You got Huddy and Coffey, who, partners you and Lee. And I think I know what it felt sitting on the bench with Mess and Andy and having that combination again is, for the guys, I think as the game went along, I felt, hey, you're never going to get another opportunity to be in this environment, whether it be, forget about the 58,000, just your teammates and partners that you're with. Larry stepping it up there a little too.
Bobby Smith played pretty well. The Canadiens definitely outplayed us. Russ Courtnall played well. Claude Lemieux. I mean, there again, 10 years from now, we'll have all played well. But,
and the Oilers will get control. Chipperfield. Chipperfield was dispatched from the Oilers in a trade that brought Lowe.
Big Bird on the,
chipping it back. Huh?
Larry Robinson is such a, great player, Hall of Famer, but such a wonderful person. Always has a smile on his face, and I think he really impacted Paul Coffey's career in that '84 Canada Cup, where, Larry, I think he was so laid back.
Right.
In such an important event, and I think that really, I don't know whether Paul will ever admit to that or whether he recognizes that, but I know that they've sort of had a special bond and very similar personalities in terms of Koff's pretty happy-go-lucky now too, and
I think that's a key point though, is that doesn't mean disinterest, and I think that's where maybe these two franchises have epitomized that maybe more than any. I mean, the old Edmonton Oilers have fun on and off the ice, but it was, you're laughing, you're enjoying life, you're taking a bite out of the apple, so to speak, but you're focused on the job at hand. And both these franchises have taken that to a real successful level, obviously.
Yeah, and pressures in both cities to be successful, you know. So that's where the commitment and the intensity and all the things that you need to have success. But if you put too much pressure on yourself and you can't laugh, smile, have some fun, you're not going to have success, because it's just you're not going to be able to compete. You're not going to be able to do anything out there because you're just too stressed, you know. And growing up in Montreal, watching the Canadiens, you know, of course we caught them in '81 when they had, at the end of their run of 4, and they were getting a little longer in the tooth, and we were younger and a little more energetic. But you know, that team was so dominant and led by Lafleur and Robinson, and Lapointe played a big part of that. And I know Glenn Sather, when he was molding the Oilers, you know, talked about the Canadiens. He was only there for a short time, but he brought all the good things from the Canadiens, the Rangers, the Bruins, in terms of traditions of the organizations, and tried to fast track that into Edmonton so that we, you know, we could quickly get up to speed in terms of what tradition is and respect for the organization, so that ultimately we could have success.
I found it interesting, you know, being around the Canadian alumni a little bit over those 2 days, is just how similar the relationship was, you know, between guys who have won Stanley Cup championships before. And I think we had 71 cups in our lineup, and they had just a few less. But it's that bond, and it's that playing hard together and winning together, that whether it's, you know, 2 years or 22 years later, you know, it's the same feel.
All they had to do was add Bob Gainey, and they probably would have beat us.
They would have beat us, yeah.
I don't know. I was bugging Bob why he wasn't playing, but he said he's getting ready for the next outdoor game, wherever that is. But yeah, it was the dressing room set up for us, you know, right beside each other. You could never have imagined that, and you know, if we're playing a real game back when we were all still playing. But that was kind of neat to have the interaction. The guys were coming back and forth. Guys on each team coming in and getting autographs from the opposition.
As we look at Wayne there, I said the one thing that, I guess not being around him that much anymore, that just blows me away again, is just how much is asked of him every single day. I mean, we get 2 days together as a team and a practice in the game, and it's a day-long autograph session, and that's got to be something that's taxing, and he probably handles it as well or better than anyone in the game.
Yeah, by everyone. A lot of guys that you know, have pretty accomplished careers as well, and certainly no one at Wayne's level. But you know, as you mentioned, there's other NHL players that they figure that, hey, this might be the last opportunity,
right,
to get an autograph for a child or a friend or a relative or whatever. So yeah, and Mark's quite similar to that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not at Wayne's level, and both those guys, they can be inundated with it, and it gets to a point where I just wonder how they do it. But they were just so happy to do it for everyone, because they knew of the significance of the moment.
1981, and that's when he was on the flank of number 99.
At least they had a smile on their face when they were doing it. Anyways, maybe I don't know what they're thinking.
I think it was a great example again for our players. I mean, the current day NHL players, and you know, you see the way that the older guys handle themselves, I think is key.
Yeah, we would have liked to have had them around a little bit more, but of course they had work to do, trying to win a hockey game. As it turned out, the Canadiens prevailed.
So, Kev, there's the transition game 20 years later. It's not quite the same run and gun, a little bit slower to develop.
Yeah, the Canadiens transition game was a little bit better.
And they had a few bodies that were like a year out of retirement. Kirk Muller, Claude Lemieux.
To the side of the net. In behind the goal, a centering pass jammed at by Smith. And a close call there.
And for Bill Ranford to go in after, you know, what a great performance by Grant Fuhr, and just really emphasizes Bill Ranford's abilities and competitiveness. You know, I remember him joking on the bench saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, when
How am I
Furzy
going to follow this up?"
kept making those saves, and the fans were, you know, so appreciative of what he was doing, and Billy going, "Oh, have I got my work cut out for me?" And then he goes out and does it.
Yeah.
Just to say, not to be one up by any means.
Well, don't you think when you think back to the internal competition of our teams, that's the one thing. I mean, you were really pushed by your teammates and the excellence of your teammates. And I'm sure it was the same for the Montreal Canadiens in their heyday, where, yeah, whether it's Billy wanting to repeat the performance of Grant or Mark trying to do what Wayne's done, and every line had a real sense of responsibility to be better than the next.
Purely in good competition and not selfishness. And there's a big difference. And, you know, I often say to people nowadays, I don't know if Gretzky wins a cup without Messier or Messier wins a cup without Gretzky.
Right.
But the combination of the two of them, on the nights when Wayne wasn't doing it, Mark was, and vice versa. And, you know, certainly Wayne took center stage quite often. And if, you know, if Mark went out and had a great game, Wayne had as big a smile on his face as Mark did, because he, you know, he admired and appreciated what Mark did for the club and wanted to see him have success as well. So that's important to have that unselfishness in order to be successful.
Well, and you look at the bench and Jari Kurri next to Wayne, and you think about the excellence on a nightly basis. I think the one great thing I like of a guy like Jari, when I was a young kid, 20-year-old when I got traded here, was the experience factor, all that competition, but also the ability to share ideas and thoughts and their expertise. And that's what blew me away from, you know, being a little bit awestruck coming into the room with Wayne and Mark and Jari. And I remember, you know, talking and watching Jari on a daily basis in practice and in games. And, you know, the not, you know, hey, don't bug me, kid. It's, hey, if I can make you a better player, we got a better chance of winning a cup. And you know, that's where now as a coach you look at young players, if they have the ability to play with those great players and develop off them, what a value that is.
The players have to embrace the young players, and they have to not perceive them as a threat. They have to perceive them as you know, an element that's going to help the hockey club. And there's always healthy competition. And if you're better than I am, so be it. You've got my job, but I'm gonna battle you hard for it. And I think that's what great teams do. They don't try to suppress the talent of the young players.
Well, you look at Glenn back there, and you know, all the different moments he's had as a coach, and I know now it's been frustrating at times in New York, but I really got the sense there that it was still his team. He's sitting on the bench there. Didn't you feel that when you looked down the way he was interacting on the bench?
Yeah, the grandmaster. You know, Glenn has a great deal of respect from all those players. You know, he was fatherly figure to everyone. And I don't think there's a player that wouldn't recognize that and would admit that. And he like Wayne and Mark and, you know, everybody, but those guys particularly, were glad to be there.
Well, he's talking about his time in Montreal and how it did show what an organization and classy and the way they treated the players. And
We had that in Edmonton with all the fans and the way the team played.
And trying to bring that to Edmonton. And hey, you know what? It's you now as general manager and you are head coach. It's, you know, I think that's still the philosophy of trying to bring everyone together for the common good.
Yeah, respect for the game, respect for the fans. I know Glenn often talked about the fans. And, you know, it's a great sport. And, you know, essentially we're as much entertainers as we are athletes. And, you know, to recognize that and responsibility to, you know, to ownership and to the organization, but recognize that the fans play a big part of it.
I think you got a chance here. Oh, yeah.
Back to low in front.
Well, if Curry put it on my
Yeah, it's a bad pass.
Yeah, bad pass.
Can't pass, you can't play, Curry. Come on.
That was it. I was done there. That was my one chance.
How did it feel for you having the kids and the family in the stands? I know you talked about Wayne wanting to bring up. I caught myself searching out and looking to see where the kids were and getting a chance to play in front of them.
Yeah, kids, you know, wife, family. You know, I think we're all thinking the same thing. You know, Mess had his mom and dad there. They flew in. I know I saw your mom there, and I'm sure your dad was there. And
Yep.
I mean, that's what hockey's all about, right? You know, the fondest memories of the game really are sharing the whatever level, sharing the stories of the game with family. Parents are proud of kids, tournaments, and the ups and downs. And
Yeah, I said that the one thing about it, you know, I had to retire at 28 years old, and my eldest son Dylan was just under 2 years old then. And the one thing I really regret or miss is the fact that I didn't get to share it with your kids. And you know, I think one of the thing about the organization when I came here that blew me away. Charlie Huddy had, you know, Ryan was a young kid and come out after practice, and the way that the team and Glenn and even the players embraced the guys' children and family and had guys out on the ice and friends out on the ice and skating was really an eye-opener. You know, playing the NHL is hard work, and when you get a chance to not feel embarrassed about sharing it and being a real family, I think was a big boost to everyone.
you know, Simmer, I don't know if my kids would have wanted to be around me when I was playing.
I know my wife didn't after a loss. Not a whole lot of talk. Now talk about Grant and, you know, relationships, and, you know, everyone has a different personality, and the perception that Grant was always he handled pressure so well, but he handled it in his own unique way. But this game, I think there's a save coming up in the next minute or so that really, to me, crystallized the organization and you know, for the fans, and Grant with the big glove save, and just how important on an offensive team his goaltending was, and other goaltending with Ranford and Moog.
Can't win without it.
Yeah.
And you hear that often, maybe overused, but it's so true. And you know, everyone said at the end of the whole thing it was old-fashioned Oiler hockey: score a couple goals and let Grant and Billy do all the rest. You know, and you know, Grant's went to the Hall of Fame this year, rightfully so, and this was you know, another surely bright spot for him. And you know, we're going to have Stanley Cup memories for years, of course, but to me what's most important is the people and the personalities, and I'm really pleased to see the way Grant's developed over the years, and you know, he's getting all the accolades now that he deserved.
Yeah, over that, when his number was retired, it was I think shock to everyone, just how well he handled himself and how well he spoke.
Well, there were so many other guys that, like Yuri, talking about Yuri earlier. You know,
Here's the save here. And listen to the reaction of the crowd. I mean, sitting on the bench, Mess and I remember looked at each other and in awe. And in this building, in the venue, with the big screen there at Commonwealth, there's a shot coming up that they showed on the big screen with the save from behind the net. And it's not often that you get to see a sunset,
right
sunset in the foreground.
I thought that's going to be a great picture when I was sitting on the bench. That kind of epitomized the whole day right there.
And doesn't that, though? Like, that's teamwork. And I think the excitement factor that we were talking about before of celebrating other guys' success, I think that's a good role model for a lot of different teams. Of don't be selfish and embrace the success of your teammates.
Well, you saw Jeff Bukaboom stand up there. You know, it had to be a pretty special moment to get Book off the off the bench. But you know, another one of the great Oilers. You know, he had a great career. Then went on and became that much more recognized in his abilities. Went to New York and won a Stanley Cup,
Sure.
playing on the you know, the top tandem with Brian Leach. And certainly, you know, Ranger fans maybe even recognize him more than Oiler fans, but he played a big part in the Oilers' success as well.
Well, after the first period here, I thought the pace was starting to pick up in the competitiveness, you know. Cough, wheel, and turn, and guys had their legs, guys had their emotions, and I think as it got a little bit closer, the competitiveness of we don't want to get beat by the other guy started to creep in as well. Well, not a bad first period. We started to get our legs fiercely with a shutout, but Kevin, to me, you know, it was again the relationship. Some things never change, like the bench and the atmosphere, but you didn't see that 20 years ago.
No, there's Koff and Larry, like I talked about, and Charlie, of course, who played on that '84 Canada Cup team. And speaking of Koff, Paul Coffey, that is, I thought it was really interesting for me to see him play again. You know, to be on the bench watching him, because he had, you know, he did a lot of the same things as he did as a player. Like you could see he was just ready to jump at any opportunity to join the play. Like and when he did see an opportunity, it was so quick to react and is so powerful. And, you know, of course, I saw that for a lot of years sitting on the bench. You wouldn't have had the opportunity because you were traded for him. But he was just, I'm surprised he didn't have a few points in the game, because he was, you could see he was poised to jump into the holes.
Well, and he wasn't bad with a shovel either.
And Doc Gregg, you know, from doctor to shoveling the snow.
I think this was a great moment, and one that, you know, you talk about the ideas for this game, and I know our organization about a year ago started to banter this around. How did it come? And Heritage Classic, what was the real driving force behind this whole thing?
Well, really it was the concept of playing an outdoor game in Edmonton had been around for some years, but the idea of the celebration of the game, you know, was really the brainchild of Alan Watt and Patrick LaForge, like to get it to the level that appeared on the television set and to all the people. You know, it's one thing to throw an event together and just hope that it creates something, but they really felt in their souls that they wanted to celebrate the game. The shovels, you know, they didn't plan the cold weather.
Yeah, no, that added to it though.
It just added to it, like, celebrate what hockey means to everybody that was sitting in the stands and watching on television, remembering going outside and playing when it was, you know, cold, getting the shovels because it had snowed, or you had played too long that there was too much snow and you had to clean the ice a bit, and as we talked about earlier, the families and all that part, the real celebration of hockey.
Well, and you're looking at like Hall of Fame players.
That's a lot of snow.
That's a heavy snow. We were skating hard. But Hall of Fame players who have had incredible careers, great accomplishments. It's, you know, it kind of brought it back to the common denominator, which was a puck, sticks, and guys having fun.
Just happens that it's in front of, you know, almost 60,000 people. But we in the planning stages of this event even talked about, okay, getting the old barrels to do the ice, you know, in between the games and stuff, and getting the guys out with the shovels. I mean, the planning of this thing was going to that degree in terms of no stone uncovered. And I'm sure if Donnie Metz could have put it together, he would have had the barrels out there. But when the snow came in, I think it put everyone behind a bit, and we had to scramble getting everything done. But, you know, that would have just added to the whole thing.
And, you know, you got to give the Canadians and their coaching, their players. You know, for us, we've been part of the planning. We were living it for months. Our team was living it. But, you know, for the Canadians and the Canadian players of the NHL team, not just the alumni team, having to come and then go, oh, all of a sudden you add the minus 22. They're not used to that. I got to give them a lot of credit for taking a good attitude and making it a real positive.
It didn't seem to bother them one bit. In fact, they were just pleased to be a part of it. And, you know, I remember there again talking about the planning of this thing, and we wanted to make it special not only for the players coming back, but for the families, and to make it, you know, an opportunity for them to come back. And we didn't know to what level that this thing would be appreciated nationally and with the parties involved, but as it started to progress from, say, early October, as the NHL season started, it really started to take on a life of its own and snowballed to where the finished product is what you see here today.
I can remember at this point it was starting to get a little bit more competitive, and the Canadians were throwing some of their younger guys out against some of our more longer in the tooth veterans. And I remember Slat saying, "Hey boys, we only got a 1-0 lead here. Let's not let this one slip away."
Yeah, no, we had to dig in. Echo your sentiments. You could just tell that both teams are saying, "All right, we're here. We might as well win the game."
Might as well win the game.
And
right.
but in the same breath, not trying to look like you're trying too hard. Because hey, that would be uncool if you're really trying hard in just an exhibition game. But
even Gretz is striding a little bit more.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't finish his check there though. I should have.
Stop on the play. But, the one thing by this point, it was tough to handle the puck. I mean, it's tough at the best of times when you haven't played for 9 years. But with so much, we had a warm-up, we'd already had a period, and only the snow shovels, it was getting pretty tough.
Everyone was warm by now. We had heat on the bench, and that was a big thing. I said to Craig Kotchuk, who was in charge of facilities, we practiced the day before. The Megastars went out, and then the 2-point game guys were going to go out after us. And I said to Craig, Craig, it is essential that we get heat on the bench because it will really make this event. If the players, the NHL players, the real game, not so much us old guys, because we have a little extra insulation on us, but to make this thing, it's going to be cold tomorrow. We have to get heat on the bench, and they did a fine job. They had to scramble around and get extra heat, and to the point where it was nice and balmy on the bench.
Yeah, it was. Our water on the bench was warm as heck. I remember going back into the dressing room and talking to our players, as they prepared for the game, and said some of them were putting on extra long underwear and extra thick things. And I said, at no point during this game did I feel the weather was an incident at all. When we were standing out and getting introduced, that's when it was tough. But once the game got on, not at all.
Yeah, except for the poor fans that were there. But I've talked to so many of them. A lot of them there for 7-8 hours, and they were just overwhelmed by the experience. It was like cold. Yeah, we noticed it, and everyone tried to be prepared. That was a great set. Billy trying to outdo Grant. Good for him. But they are all just the smile on their face was the same as the players. They said, "Hey, we live in this climate. We've gone to football games in this type of weather. We're not going to let the weather ruin, which we hope is a special moment." And they stayed all day.
Yeah, that was really the incredible part, was the fact that they, even halfway through the next one, there's one I should have got upstairs. I tell our players, Kevin, all the time, when you get in tight, hold on to it and go upstairs. You don't think I took a little bit of ribbing there. I wasn't stretched out, couldn't get it over Richard Sevigny.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. And,
well, you tried to do it quick, though. You tried to do it quick. Here's a good replay.
See, it's that patience. I should have taken it across. Oh, well. Here's Billy. And again, what a shot from the net with the sky and, blue sky Alberta. You got to love that.
Seen Billy make a lot of saves like that. 1990 playoffs, he was Conn Smythe winner and came off the mat. We're down 3-1 to Winnipeg in that first series. And it looked like the Oilers run we'd lost the year before in the playoffs to LA, and looked like that was it. And from that point on, it was an incredible goaltending demonstration.
Well, what's incredible too, remember the first game against Winnipeg there, we'd had a good game, and Billy, in really his first starting role, struggled. We lost 7-5, and again, you talk about mental toughness and getting yourself off the mat. He had stood up and admitted that he was subpar, he had to be better, and just kept going until things did turn around.
In his own zone, and still the only goal scorer here with less than 10 minutes to go in this.
One thing, Kenny Linsman, say what you want about Kenny. You mentioned before about him scoring big goals, but this is where, in this type of setting, you really get a feel for the guys who, why have they been successful? Why have some guys made it with maybe less talent? Because they're competitive edge. And I thought from a competitive standpoint, Kenny was still grinding it out as he did years ago playing.
Yeah, he came and brought his son Kyle to the game, and Kenny was, underappreciated probably everywhere he went, but highly skilled, highly competitive.
Look at Knuckles and Sammy there having a little chat. That's a good part of the game.
That shot they showed, the overhead shot before, you know, certainly aren't the memories we could say that we had as a kid playing outdoors. You know, I think. Do you remember the first time you played outdoors?
Yeah, I think the great thing about, you know, it's sort of etched in our minds, Walter Gretzky's grainy video of Wayne out in the backyard. And I think all of us have that backyard experience. We always had a little pond near our house that we played, and I think what was really put together here was, didn't matter about the cold, didn't matter about the time. The only thing that ever stopped us was the light of day. If you didn't have lights, well, luckily here we did, and you just played. And I think that's where the passion that we always talk about being a champion, well, the passion about getting better and playing, you never wanted to stop. You know, you went out there at 9 in the morning, next thing you knew, the lights were coming on and you had to come home.
You know, it was just fun. It was just, and they're talking about the day, losing the daylight. You wouldn't notice how dark it was until you started walking home. You're going, we were just playing like 2 minutes ago and we could see. I mean, we can't even see walking home right now.
Yeah. Well, I think that element was alive and well. I mean, you look at the guys, I don't know how you felt. I know you blew your groins out, but at the end it was like, do we have to stop? You know, I think the alumni, just could have kept playing until they turned the lights out on us.
No, we're just eating up the moment, no doubt about it. I think the fans in attendance too, a lot of them said they wanted to see one more period. You know, it was getting kind of entertaining. I don't know whether the Canadians would have taken over the game by then. I think that was planning,
yeah.
planning to the best possible scenario, only playing 2 periods.
There's Bill with another big save.
Ticky.
Ticky.
Always the character.
Well, you know, again, for Tick to get back and to get in that environment again, you see so many players who have come and had great success here. But, you know, all the elements of championship teams, and you think about the big games, taking Craig Janney to the hospital after that game one, and in the Boston Cup series, and so many great things he did that not all of them get notoriety, but it was a big part of us winning.
Yeah, a character certainly well recognized by Oiler fans. You know, if they have to give a list of 10 players or names that stand out, not ability, but just names, of Ticky'd be up there on the top of them. Tikkanen is synonymous with sort of hockey in Edmonton, and sort of odd, you know, a Finnish guy.
Yeah.
But I think NHL people started talking about Europeans being like Canadians. Esa Tikkanen was one of the first. I know Salming in Toronto, of course, because he played the game so fearlessly. But, you know, in terms of being an aggressive guy and, you know, a bit of a disturber out there.
A gritty game and getting your nose dirty.
I think Tikkanen was one of the first Europeans to sort of to have that label. And I'm sure it was the same for the European players involved in this game, that they would have, you know, we think hockey's a Canadian game, and we're going to go to our grave saying that, but I'm sure they have the same outdoor childhood experiences as we did growing up.
You know, you look at the game, obviously the pace is not what the NHL game is now, but, you know, we've been talking lately about watching some classic games in the 80s, and, you know, as I watch video now every day in coaching duty, the game hasn't changed that much. Everyone is battering the game, you know, and talking about what changes need to be made. But you look at it, and the bottom line is the players are just as talented, if not more. And I think that the game just changes. But having a game like this where all the old players back together, I think, in my mind, said, you know, things haven't changed that much.
Well, it was nice to sort of suppress for some time, perhaps, the critics that it was a 2-0 game, and that, you know, because
everybody was expecting this big offense.
Yeah, if it was 9-6, they'd say, well, you see, that's what it was like. I agree that, you know, we have to be careful bad-mouthing the quality of what we see on the ice. I have so much respect for the players. They're in better shape, they're stronger, they're faster, they're more committed, and and I say that in all due respect and from the old players, and I'm one of them. The game has come a long way. Mind you, there are challenges because the players are better coached and there's more systems involved, but the essence of the game has not changed. It's still the same game, and that part is never going to change, and we should never forget that.
I think about how we prepare now as a coaching staff for games 1 through 82 was like we used to prepare only in the Stanley Cup Finals, maybe. You know, at that point, there's not even close the relationship between then and now.
Yeah, we'd have to bear down and do a little more homework. Big goal by Marty there. I wonder if
and the tough guys are scoring too.
Well, then they expect the unexpected in hockey. That's the beauty of the game. But I wonder if Marty's stick was legal. I think Larry's
Larry, yeah, he put his head up there.
Or Jacques Demers said. I think Jacques was coaching.
He was going to call it
again. He was going to call
it,
yeah. Probably a moment Marty wants to forget, but certainly a moment in hockey history.
Again, look at Kenny. Great vision of the ice, good patience, perfect pass.
I wonder if Marty was going glove side or stick side.
He'll tell you. It was
anywhere
exactly
6x4.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, Gretz has his toque off here. You know, that's how warm it was getting. It was still, I think it was still -20, but combination of the heat on the bench and just the body's getting warm from skating.
That may get guys like Gretzky and Messier really going to work here, because if they have to go back to the dressing room and
Look at Fierzy.
listen to the story of the heroics of Marty
A good
McSorley,
night's work done.
long afternoon.
Oh, this is when the streaker was out there. I was thinking to myself,
What's going on?
what
You
the
didn't see
buzz
him right
was
away?
going. No, I didn't. I never did see him.
Oh, he was going up and down and diving all over. It was quite comical. You can hear the crowd.
Yeah, and I was telling people because we ended up having a pretty good shift here. Stayed in the Canadiens end for some time, and I thought, wow, the fans are really getting into it. But their reaction,
It doesn't match the play.
it wasn't in sync with the play, as you can see here. I think Gary and I play a little give and go here, and it's coming up. Right here, see, I'm just.
Oh, you're
over the
tapping your
foot.
stick.
Yeah,
Were
yeah.
you yelling
Move
for
it.
it too, or you
That's
didn't
what
want him to hear?
There, no, it's a ticking eye.
That's funny.
Putting on the pressure now.
I think the police have the streaker by now. I mean, you know, I don't think the organization planned that. At least I wasn't involved in the meeting.
missed that meeting, did you?
That must have been Alan Watt.
Well, I tell you, we were on the bench and we were howling.
A pass in front, and Redford, a tremendous save.
Great save.
Well, it's funny. The streaker, oh, here we go back to, you know, a lot of people, Kevin, talked about this series for you guys as one that sort of started the push to being a great team. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, you know, the Canadiens they had won 4 cups in a row the year prior, or they had just finished their reign, and, you know, they were the almighty Montreal Canadiens, and, you know, we were just going there not to embarrass ourselves, and to sweep them 3 games, just our fans, the players, the organization just gave us a lift that, hey, we are NHL players.
Yeah, we're here.
We're here. We can actually do something.
He had a hat trick in the deciding third.
Well, you talked about the fans staying. My kids were all in there, right in the back behind the net, Montreal zone, and it was great to hear their reactions. And I think they were shocked afterwards, going, "Hey, Dad, you're not that bad." You know, I said, "Well, the expectations maybe were really low, but yeah, as I said before, for me, their reaction, and I got a great picture of Wayne with all 3 of my kids, Dylan, Riley, and Kennedy, and you know, those are things that Dylan is obviously a little older and very much aware of Wayne, but for all of them, it was one of those moments that I think they even realized that, hey, this is something that'll never happen again, and something that we get to experience with Dad. I kept them out of school on the Friday so that they could come for our practice, and you know, it's one that you'll never get a chance to do again, and that was real special.
I hope that the game can be recreated elsewhere, not from the commercial aspect of it, but just from the experiences of people enjoying the game of hockey. players and fans alike, and you're discussing there with your kids. I think all the players involved. I know the Montreal players brought their families, and the Edmonton players, and then in the main game, you know, as I've said a few times, a celebration of hockey, and it can be recreated in the States, you know.
But I think our fans in this city really played a huge part of that too. Like it might be recreated somewhere, but this is a real incredible place to have huge events, from the World Championships to Grey Cups, and this was just another feather in the cap.
This is the heartland.
We're scrambling again here though. This is a shift I talked with you and Charlie, and I got back a minute 58 left here. Now we get a face-off, and I was ribbing Charlie and you after, saying this is one shift where you guys are just dying and trying to hold on and preserve that shutout. And it's one of those shifts that you just can't wait to get off the ice.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been an event either without grapes. Yeah, we'll see that shift in a second here. But I was laughing because one of the old stories about Paul Coffey and Charlie Huddy playing together is that someone had told the story, I think it was a Doug Harvey story, where he used to tell all the kids in training camp, his defense partner, he'd say, hey, listen, kid, you really want to impress the coaches. You work both corners and I'll stand in front of the net. So Paul Coffey used to joke about that all the time, and Charlie Huddy was such a big part of Paul Coffey's success in Edmonton that Paul will agree to. And once in a while, Charlie would catch himself working both corners while Coff stood in front of the net. So I have to confess, that's what I was thinking.
Well, here you are.
Okay,
you got your guy in the corner. You pinned him.
Yeah.
Now Charlie goes down for a block. Billy, a big save. And here's where you guys are just hanging on.
Yeah, see, Charlie's over on my side now, so I'm going to let him. Doesn't get it out. And, you know, I have to confess, too, there was a part of me kind of hoping the Canadians would score to make it, you know, a little more...
just a little part, I hope, right?
Just a little part, yeah, you know.
Billy's trying to clear it himself.
There's Bobby Smith on the boards, firing it back in deep. Montreal with the extra.
There's nothing quite like having your lungs burning and your legs barking, and you can't get a hold of the puck and try desperately to get the pressure off.
Well, mine weren't, because I wasn't doing too much. To see him stand in front of the net, not moving.
Robinson was parked in front. Here's a chance. Ranford the save. With less than a half minute.
Well, at this moment, you knew the win was in the bag, Kevin, and you had to be feeling, I know as a player, what a great experience, but also as a big part of management, that this really was something special and something to remember for a lifetime.
Well, a lot of planning involved, a lot of people involved that deserve all the credit in the world for putting together, as Gary Bettman said at the Board of Governors meeting, the most significant game in NHL history. And I think that sort of says it all.
And fitting that the two goaltenders who were the best on the ice get the shutout. And, you know, remember back in 1988 that Wayne on the ice after winning the Stanley Cup brought everyone down, and we had the picture with the Stanley Cup. I thought
First ever.
I thought this was a great ending to this game of bringing both teams together in a moment and getting another similar type shot on such a historic event.
Yeah, and I was talking to Ron McLean here, I think, or someone, and say I come in late.
Right in the front row, though. That boy.
Yeah. Well, I figured I might as well get right down there.
If you've been listening at all to Wayne Gretzky during the course of the week, he said he's really looking forward to the game. But he said, you know, Ron, the first thing that goes after you leave the NHL, it's not the legs like everybody always says it is, it's the hands. And Paul Coffey said, no, Wayne's got it all wrong. The first thing that goes after you leave the NHL is the wife. So I'm glad I did that bridal shower back in 1984. Anyway, Stephanie Coffey's here. Don't worry about Paul. Don't worry about Stephanie. You know, I remember that particular function that I hosted in Red Deer was about 5 to 7 o'clock in the afternoon, and I raced home like any good Albertan would do to get to the TV set, because that night was Game 4 of the New York Islanders and the Edmonton Oilers. I roared into the bedroom, turned on the TV, got out of my suit, was watching the game, and it's Semenko to Curry to Wayne Gretzky on a breakaway. And I don't have to tell you that Wayne, who really was always great, despite Nagano, he was always great, in overtime or in big games or on key penalty shots. He actually was pretty good on penalty shots and on breakaways. But in 1984, we were worried about him because his dad had said, Wayne, you got to get a shorter stick. Puck seems to be slipping off the heel, and maybe you go back to your old skates. Looks like they're moving around a little bit because Wayne hadn't scored a goal in any of the finals games in 83 or in 1984. Dave Semenko was actually leading him in goal scoring at that point. But Wayne took the puck eye to eye, in alone on Billy Smith, deked him out of his jock strap, scored the goal. And if you were like me, as a good Alberta boy, you knew when Wayne scored that goal, the cup was coming to the provincial capital of Alberta. And I remember, miraculously, I got the chance to work for Hockey Night in Canada shortly thereafter. And by 1988, the Oilers had won a cup again. They're fourth now, and good buddies of mine, Todd and Jerry, are in the crowd, and this whole night seems to be about friends and family. But Jerry Murphy and I, who works at TELUS, and this is TELUS Legends Live, Jerry got off work that night. We were standing on White Avenue at 5 in the morning, or Jerry was standing, I was barely. But it's 5 in the morning, and here comes Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier, arm in arm. Who'd have known it to be the last time until tonight and until tomorrow. And they went to Yanni's, and then Kevin Lowe took them off to his place for the rest of the breakfast party. And you know, we all knew it. The Oilers, they say, unless you've played in the NHL, you can't know the magic of that dressing room. But the Oilers always made that dressing room the entire city, didn't they? They brought the cup to all the great pubs, and they made it a community thing. And if Edmonton, as a city, was the Oilers' dressing room, well, this dressing room over here has always belonged to the entire country, and that's thanks to the Montreal Canadiens. Paul Hogan, Crocodile Dundee, had it right when he said, you don't go back to somebody's house because you love the furniture, you go back because you love the people. And we do love these people. Would you please welcome, led by the captains, the flower Guy Lafleur, the great one Wayne Gretzky, the Montreal Canadiens and Edmonton Oilers Megastars. Thanks, George. Well, we finally got in that dressing room, and what a thrill it is. The team of the 80s, the team of all time. Before we get to all our interviews, I'll direct your attention to the screens, and let's relive the magic.
Gretzky is up there. Gretzky scores! the wall in the Forum dressing room of the Montreal Canadiens were the words, "To you we pass the torch." From generation to generation, dynasty to dynasty, the torch was passed from one legendary Canadiens team to the next. In 1981, the greatest team of the 70s passed the torch to what would become the greatest team of the 80s in the first and only Stanley Cup playoff meeting between Montreal and Edmonton. That series was the foundation of the 5 Stanley Cup banners that hang above you. That series showed Edmonton and the world that the brash young Oilers would demand their respect and attention. For over 2 decades, that series has lived on in our memories and our hearts. Tomorrow, we get to witness the rematch. But before old scores are settled on the frozen pond of dreams, let's enjoy the memories and celebrate the great collection of talent here tonight. The men on this stage have battled through 40,703 NHL games. They have lifted fans from their seats with 9,841 goals. Their 17,438 assists are a testament to their playmaking abilities. Added up, and between these two teams of all-stars, they have scored 27,279 points. Their efforts didn't go unnoticed. 69 times they have been honored with major NHL awards. 9 of the men you see before you tonight have received the ultimate honor, enshrinement in the Hockey Hall of Fame. The true measure of their greatness can be weighed in the silver of their Stanley Cups and the gold of their rings. Tonight, you are joined by a group of legends that have won 166 Stanley Cup championships. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome 50 goal scorers Stéphane Richer, Steve Shutt, and Guy Lafleur.
Hey, Stéphane, you had the long stick. Don Cherry always loved, he talks about it all the time, but you had that amazing shot. Do you think that was the secret of your success, or was speed a big factor in being a 50-goal scorer?
I really don't know. I was drafted as a centerman from Granby, and I guess it's a funny timing because my first preseason was here against the Oilers. I faced Wayne my first face-off in AHL, and play with Steve and Guy. That was, what a night for me, and I always remember that. But it's funny because even in junior, I wasn't a goal scorer. I was a centerman and tried to make play. And all of a sudden, a lot of guys had bad injuries in Montreal, and then they said, "You want to play right wing?" And then one night, I scored a few goals, and that was it.
Huh. Well, you were a great scorer, and for New Jersey too, when they needed it in that '95 Cup run. And Steve, there's a neat little bit of history that ties in with New Jersey. Guy got his 500th goal, and on that night, you had a great milestone as well. Tell us about that goal.
Yeah, I scored my 400th, and I guess Flower used to do everything together. So, and again, that was a rebound. Yeah.
Both 60-goal guys, so you do have a lot in common. And one guy that's not here tonight, though, that we should throw in that was a big part of. I mean, you pick a line mate, but Pete Mahovlich is a guy that you always singled out as maybe underrated.
Pete Mahovlich was really our first centerman, and at that time he was the big star of the team, and we were struggling a little bit. And if anybody knew Big Pete, he was the type of guy. He just took us under his wing, and he said, "Okay, guys, I'm going to look after you guys." And really, that's what he did. And he allowed us to get our confidence, and then we went on from there to our careers.
Did you want to add anything about, and I want to ask you a little bit about the Canada Cup in '81, but did you want to add a sort of a final thought on what it is to play in this big game tomorrow for you as the guy who made the ice?
Yeah, if somebody trips on the ice, they're going to blame me. So
simple. If you don't know, it was Steve's company that made the ice with Dan Craig, of course, and Francois and the rest of the gang doing a super job. Well, Guy, I know how Wayne is. I haven't got to spend as much time with you, but his friendships are, forever. And the '81 Canada Cup, he always said, for 6 weeks, everywhere Guy Lafleur went, I went. And so some of the credit for Wayne's ability to handle, and he didn't need a lot of help because he seemed to be able to handle things at an early age. But you must feel very proud of Wayne's blossoming. And I think a lot of it had to do with the friendship you guys struck up in 1981. And I don't know if people realize how close you two were through that year.
Well, I was very lucky to have a chance to play with Wayne in 1981, the same line with Gilbert Perreault. It's too bad I didn't end my career with Wayne. I would have maybe a few more points, but we had a great time. And I recall when we were going to the opening of Yvon Lambert's restaurant in Longueuil, and I was driving your car, and you were sitting right beside me, and we're going on the highway, and it was raining. It was very slippery at the time. So we started to spin. We did about 3 spins. And I look at Wayne and say, "Are you okay?" He was white like this one, And I was red like that. And I looked at Wayne and said, "We better go slow. We'll go to the opening and we'll drive back." And Wayne said to me, he said, "That's the last time I'm going to use my car." And you as a driver.
And we know how you love to fly, Wayne, so that must have been, well, that's a great move, that spinorama. You used it very effectively. Just to comment on maybe a teammate or a moment that, how do you pick them in your career, Guy, but maybe go back to the 3rd season when you and Steve, that 3rd season for you when you got rid of the helmet and you just seemed to become Guy Lafleur. What happened?
Well, what happened, it's the first 3 years I was not playing regularly with the team. And everybody thought that it was because of the helmet. I took it off after the 3rd year, and it wasn't that. It was because of the ice time. I was playing a lot more. I was playing on the power play, and I think that's when I got my confidence back. And also playing with Steve and Peter Mahovlich, and we had a lot of success. And Steve was my roommate for 8 years. So for 8 years, I spent more time with Steve than with my wife. Well, not in the same bed, though.
No, well, I'd have no problem with that. As Don would say, wouldn't know a hockey player if he slept with Bobby Orr, but you two know hockey players. And just a great treat, Stéphane, to have you here and on the dais with Steve and Guy, 2 wonderful ambassadors. Good luck in the game tomorrow. You're going to need it, boys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Glenn Anderson, Yari Curry, Kevin Lowe, Mark Messier, and Wayne Gretzky.
Keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions of the world.
All we really ever wanted was a chance to say thank you, Wayne, and Kevin, and Mark, and Yari, and Glenn. And just a little bird told me to mention 3 key guys too. Craig McTavish, who was legendary. I still think of you and him down side by side blocking a shot against Minnesota '91, mind you, but it's one of my favorite images of the Edmonton Oilers. Kevin McClellan, the 1-0 goal that really maybe kick-started the Cup victory against the Isles in '84. And who was the other guy we wanted to? Oh, Mike Krushelnyski. Of course, in the trade. You and Marty to LA, a heart and soul guy that went down there. And while I think of it, Gaetan Lefebvre's been kind enough to join the Habs gang up there, one of the great trainers of all time, Lyle Kochiski, Peter Miller, Barry Stafford. Should thank all those guys. Kevin, must be a thrill beyond. Who's that? Andy Moog. Yeah, we haven't actually mentioned Andy other than in the interviews. That's a good one. We must just really be excited, all 5 of you. Why don't we start, Glenn Anderson, with the boys on the bus. Kevin was the narrator, and I'll hand it off to him to ask questions in a minute. But in that, one of the funniest sequences, I mean, Wayne's had a terrifying life when you hear about him driving with Guy at the Canada Cup. Wait till you hear what happened in the goose hunting story. Now, the legend has it, Glenn was over in his blind and he was doing a bad job of calling for ducks. He was giving the goose signal instead of the duck signal. But the truth of the matter is, why Wayne was really traumatized is what, Glenn?
Well, Slats was actually part of this too, so he was the instigator. Glenny invited us out just past Viking one day. First time out duck hunting with Gretz. We're sitting in the blind. Slats is on the other side of the blind. And the boys on the bus story is the boys on the bus stories. What really happened was Gretz picks up the gun and I'm in the blind going, and nothing's coming in. So we can't figure it out. Why the ducks aren't coming in? So he goes, well, try a little harder. So I'm going, well, still nothing. All of a sudden, you hear from the other side, that's the goose call. So, as lucky as Gretz is, finally we got duck hunting, and we start calling them the ducks in. Whack, whack, whack. And the first, and honest to God's truth, the first shot he takes, he nails a duck and knocks it down. Unbelievable. That's how lucky this guy is from day one. Now, to react to that, the second shot he takes, he misses, and the shell backfires and hits him on the head, and he drops in the blind, and he thought he got killed.
So Andy almost got you, Guy almost got you. Keep your head up tomorrow. This is a dangerous crowd. Hey, Mark, thanks. Meant a lot. You know, as an Aikinsdale Arena kid, I spent a lot of time covering the Saints and watched your dad run the bench. Just missed you, but St. Albert's a wonderful town, and that's your town, so is this. I mean, you've said it a million times that it's hard to find words to describe this group and what they mean to you, but maybe if you could try.
Well, it's hard to explain the feelings and the emotions I went into, not only.
That's a goose call.
But you know, being able to come back to this event here has been obviously very special. I looked on the calendar as soon as the schedule came out this year and saw that we weren't coming back to Edmonton as a team with New York. And when Kevin started talking about perhaps it'd be an opportunity to come back for this event, it was a great opportunity for me to come back and say thanks to a lot of people and play one more time perhaps in Edmonton.
How about a... Do you remember walking down 82nd Avenue arm in arm in 88? Can you think of an image? If you think of you and this group of guys, is there a favorite place or time or cup celebration that stands out? I know that's a tough question always.
Well, it's just a tough question to answer. You know, I think all the guys up here have spoke so eloquently about what it meant to be an Oiler, what it took to be an Oiler, what it took to be a champion. And I think the consistent thing that everybody has talked about on both sides, the Canadians and our side, is that what it takes to play on a championship team is camaraderie. You have to be think and feel and act as one, and you know, both sides of the Canadians have done that better than anybody in the history of the game. And we wanted to follow the Canadians in their footpath, and we tried to emulate them. And sure enough, we became champions ourselves.
Hey, Yari. I know for Guy it must have been a frustration because he's a right-hand shot, and you feathering to Yari, that was a big challenge, right, Wayne? But I'll let Yari tell this story, and then you and Kevin can go at it. But it was the marriage. It was really something early in the career. Actually, Dave Semenko did a pretty good job, but to find a guy play on the right side and wire it home like you did, when did you learn, and what do you remember about clicking with Wayne?
Well,
He mentioned that he was a lucky to play with him career, but I was a lucky to play with Kretz my whole career. And, we started to play together probably in Christmas time, my first year. We have a little bit of losing streak going on. We lose 9 games in a row, I believe, and we keep changing lines. And I had my chance to go win and score 3 goals that night, and I guess the rest is history. But for shooting is a big part of my game, and even growing up back in Finland, I spent a lot of times at the rinks, after the practice, just taking some shots and came from there.
Well, it was something to see. Kevin, why don't you take over here?
Yeah, Ron, thank you. I just want to take a second and thank, I know Mark alluded to, the Montreal Canadiens for their participation in this weekend on behalf of the Edmonton Oilers. It really gives the Canadian game, the great Canadian game, the kind of emphasis, not that an outdoor game in Edmonton needs any further enhancement, but it gives it the kind of mystique that we all hope to attain tomorrow. And for all the people that have volunteered to make this perhaps one of the greatest hockey memories of all time, we want to thank them. Yes. And also I want to thank all the players and their families who have come here. I know Jack and Betty Coffey and Doug and Mary Jean Messier, and a lot of the Canadians have their moms and dads here, and cousins and aunts and sisters. That's what makes our great game so special, is the family, to be able to share with the family. And I want to thank all of them for taking the time out to come to the greatest sports town in the world, Edmonton.
I still remember a great shot of your mom, Jessie, in the dairy in Lachute when you brought the ice cream to the dressing room in Montreal, and Glenn said, "You see, that's your problem, is that dairy farm. You came to Edmonton, you were a 212 fat kid. Now you're 196 pounds of dynamite. I'm glad I got a hold of you."
I'm back to 212 now.
Oh, no, you're not. I saw you this weekend. Well, final word, Wayne. First of all, we can buy the DVD because it is fantastic, and John Davidson and Kiefer Sutherland did a beautiful job on Ultimate Gretzky, so I won't put you through all the questions of your career tonight, and you did a great job for Kevin and the Oilers last year at the Waiter There's a Puck in My Soup dinner, which was unbelievable. So how about just a final, if you can, sort of put into words what you're feeling about the weekend?
Well, it's hard to describe, it's, I think, as Kevin just said, it's the greatest game in the world, and we don't ever get tired of it. I can remember being 6 years old, and at 17 years old, turning pro and putting on the Edmonton Oilers uniform for the first time. I can remember going into the Montreal Canadiens locker room the first time in 1981, Canada Cup. For whatever reasons, I decided to get a perm that summer, so Flower nicknamed me Curly. So wherever he went, I just followed him around for 6 straight weeks. And as my career went along, I felt really fortunate. I got a chance to play with some of the greatest players, the most unselfish people you could ever have in any situation. I got to play in some Canada Cup teams, some great Canada Cup teams. And most importantly, I got to play with a wonderful group of guys in a wonderful city. And we had our tough days. We had days where we'd come to the rink and it wasn't as good as other days. But each and every person helped each other and pushed each other. And Glenn Sather and Ted Green and John Muckler made us better athletes. They made us better people. And I'm always proud to say I was an Edmonton Oiler and played with these guys, and I look forward to playing tomorrow. Thank you all very much.
Oh, Ronnie Lowe's here, and we know what Ronnie Lowe meant to you, and I hope we didn't miss anybody that's a great Edmonton Oiler. All I'll say is this, it's a big day tomorrow. You guys want to go have a beer and get ready and get to bed. Wayne's dad, Walter, always said, Wayne, get your sleep when you have a big game, so I know they want to do that, but I'll sum it up for our sponsor who presented Legends Live tonight. I always like to end with a little pun, and we'll head it off to Blondheim. But for 25 years, the Edmonton Oilers and the Montreal Canadiens, even before that, they showed us. Thanks for coming here tonight to tell us.
Well, for me, it's scoring that last goal against the Islanders into the empty net. I think it made the score 5-2.
Islanders fight for it on the board. Right in front of Montreal down the
Patty LaFontaine, we were up 4-0, and he scores 2 quick ones in about 13 seconds. And they had pulled their goalie late in the game, and when that puck went in the net, he may get 2 in 13 seconds, but not 3. And when that went in the net, that's when I knew that we'd actually won it. That was pretty exciting for me.
There's a couple, but I remember Game 5 against Philly. Back then it was 2, 3, and 2, and Philly beat us the first game. We won the next one. Then we won the next 2 at home. And it was just before the Game 5, which if we won, we would have wrapped it up. And usually Gretz was one of the first guys up and out the dressing room. He used to follow the goalies out. And I remember seeing him rocking a little bit with a stick, and that really wasn't Wayne. He was kind of kept to himself, didn't say a lot, but usually he didn't show a lot of emotion. And I heard him say to himself, I had gotten up, and I heard him say to himself, he says, I'm not going back to Philly. And I think he had 3 points in the first 4 minutes or something, and we were up 3-0, and we ended up winning 7-3. But just the determination, when he kind of said that to himself, it sure made me feel a lot better, I tell you.
No question about my favorite moment with the Edmonton Oilers, and this is maybe a statement that not many people know about the players that were on that team. We used to go to the Niagara Falls NHL slow pitch tournament every year. It was in the summertime. Finally, we were playing a game in St. Catharines, and I can't remember who we were playing against, but it was when the big guys were there, when Wayne and Mark were there, and they had to be all fenced off. And I happened to be sitting at the end of the bench, and just beside this fenced-off area, there was this young boy, about 8 years old at the time. He was sitting watching, of course, watching all these great players. And I looked at him and said, have you ever been a bat boy? And he said, no. I said, well, give me a second. So I went to security, got him through security. He became our bat boy. And anyway, we win. But what was really funny about that, not only did we win, but we were in St. Catharines at the time, going back to Niagara Falls, and this young fellow had come out from Niagara Falls. So he just came on our bus. There was not even a thought. This young 8-year-old came on our bus. We told the busty to go right to his house. So this bus full of the Edmonton Oilers, Stanley Cup champs, stop in front of this young fellow's house. We get out. Dave Semenko and I put him on our shoulders and parade him into his house. We all sit down in the front room, and his mom is in the back kitchen cleaning some dishes. She hears this ruckus and starts coming out and sees all these men, these 16 big men sitting in front of the TV in her front room. And of course, she was a little nervous at first. We all introduced ourselves, and she was pretty happy. But for about 7 years after, I got a letter from that young fellow saying that was the best day of my life.
Well, boxing is a good form of exercise and to get you in good shape, and so does wrestling. And after each practice, Fogelin and I would tag team Semenko and Messier. And Messier was only 18, and I got to tell you, he was one strong dude at 18. I had to do everything I could to get him down. And I was about 25, and I thought I was a pretty strong guy. So we would do this every day for maybe a half hour, and we'd come out of that training room or the lounge just completely red and soaked in sweat. And it was just another way of maybe just having some fun with a teammate, and it's actually pretty good exercise too.
I look back, and it wasn't only playing with these great players, but it was being able to watch them game in and game out, and seeing Kevin Lowe come up as a 19-year-old, and still like yesterday, seeing him at the Westin Hotel and meeting him and watching him grow into a great player, and Mark and Glennie Anderson and Yeri and Grant and the whole crew. Paul Coffey, I mean, again, one of the best players that ever played his position. And but I think watching Wayne game in, game out, watching how disciplined he was on and off the ice, how he always strived to be better. He was so much better than all the rest of us. And the thing that I'll never forget is here you have this player that is so spectacular and has accomplished so much, but yet he was so much of a team player and felt for everybody in that room. He dealt with it all at such a young age, and he made everybody feel part of it. If Wayne could give you a puck and you scored a goal, which maybe you weren't normally used to doing for some of us, I mean, he was happier than you were because he was able to do that for you. And as great a player as he was on the ice, he's probably a better person, that's for sure.
Probably has to be 90, winning the Stanley Cup and then coming back to the city into that airport and just seeing the number of people just crammed into that small airport. And that's probably a moment that I'll remember for a long time. And guys just living it up. You know, it's the first time the Oilers ever won it on the road, and to come back to that type of crowd into the airport was amazing.
My favorite moment, really as an Oiler, was not on the ice. It was in the Boston Garden in the dressing room after winning the Stanley Cup in '90, and celebrating with teammates, and the music was blaring, the cup was in the middle, all the media was gone, and it was just us. And I remember sitting back in the stall with still drenched underwear on, feeling exhilarated, exhausted, and just all the emotions that you hoped and dreamed as a kid that you could experience were in that moment. And it really defined why I wanted to be a hockey player, and to share it with your teammates and to watch them and to see the Stanley Cup, I think really defined what this organization was all about. But for me, it's the lasting memory I wanted to have as an NHL player.
an outdoor hockey game and it's below zero, either Celsius or Fahrenheit, that is a real fan. Huh? Yeah! If you get hungry, how much can you fit inside that little hole there? I don't know, but I just ate a bag of fries. Tell me, how good's the burger?
Good, real good.
Have you broke your teeth on it? It looks like it's frozen.
No, not yet. Not yet. Later they'll be frozen. They'll be all right.
All right, now tell me, how warm are your hands right now?
They're toasty warm. Can't get any warmer than what these are.
Who's lost the bet here and made you wear these things to the game?
Oh, I did actually. I lost a bet.
When you walked into this place and you saw the stadium become a hockey rink, what was your first thought?
I was like, holy crap, this is wicked. This is like the coolest thing I've ever seen. Holy crap. Did I say it on TV?
You just did.
Okay. Holy crap.
Now, how'd you get tickets? Good answer. What do you got here for temperature?
Minus 16.2.
He says minus 16.2, the whole place goes nuts. So tell me, who are you here to see?
Everybody.
Wayne Gretzky, of course.
Who else? Gretz! Why would you come to a game like this when it's freezing?
Oh, chance of a lifetime. Look what's happening. First time ever. You gotta enjoy it.
Say that one more time.
If I die today, I die a happy man.
Woo!
Many men dream the dream. I can say that I live the dream.
Woo!
I think this is great thing what happened right now, and I think every guy is excited like little kids again and go to play outside.
It's great. It's wonderful to be here and to be part of this. It's just a great experience.
This is grassroots. This is perfect. This is it. And the people in Edmonton, they've reacted so great to this, and they've been such great fans for so long that this is perfect. I can't think of anything better I'd rather do right now.
Morning, guys.
Welcome to Edmonton. Thank you.
I don't know if there's any goals in these. I think it's safe.
There's a close-up.
Hey! Hey! Jesus!
Going, Mars, how you doing?
Yeah, hey. That's old-time hockey. That is old-time Sammy. Look at skate guards. Remember to take them off. I don't know if we'll notice a difference.
Shut the doors so they don't check the sticks.
Heading over the Field of Dreams, boys. Yeah. If they build it, we'll eventually get there. We're going to prove why we're retired.
I'll show you.
All right, folks. We'll go 5-on-0 both ways to start with.
5-0, move it up, come back, regroup, go down and take a shot. Same drill we've been doing for 18,000 years. Puck, 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 puck! Good fake. Way to get over, Furzy. Head up, baby.
Oh, I need my dad to rub my toes.
Does it bring back some memories of the old outdoor?
It was good out there. The ice was good. The ice looks small though, because the stadium's so big, you know.
Back there, I know.
But it was good.
Go Oilers! What time are you guys going to be ready to look at the video? What time will you be ready for the video? Tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow.
I'm ready. Drop the buck.
Just want to tell you, I just ran into Patrick Laforte, who has put this together on behalf of Edmonton, and he said that this would not have been possible without the Montreal Canadiens and the quality of the history and the alumni of this organization. That all of you being here is what's made this possible. Thank you all for coming back, and thank you for representing this wonderful franchise so well. Privilege for the Gillette family to be here. Thank you, have fun, avoid injury. Gee, how are you, man?
Hey, 10 push-up, 10 push-up!
We're going to be doing the team photo at 1:50 outside, and then after that team photo, you get on the bus.
This is a celebration of the game. It's a celebration of its heroes and the great contribution that you've all made to it. So go out there, have fun. The world is watching you, and let's give them a good battle and beat the ass. Thank you.
How you doing? How are you? Stay warm.
chest it out. Look at all the stops. Little baby powder.
Oh, yeah. There you go. There you go.
And I think I might be tucking my sweater. They won't be able to tell us apart.
Finally get a chance to exhibit all those talents that were laying in wait all these years. If you could have just played your game.
If I could have just played my game.
Hey, there'd be another banner.
Jerry wants to ask you a question. Ask her.
I'd like to do the long move. Side.
My skates are sharp. I'll be touching my elbow on my toes.
Six-time Stanley Cup champion, number 11, Mark Messier.
Inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1988. Would you welcome to Commonwealth Stadium,
Number 10, Guy Lafleur.
the greatest hockey player who ever lived,
Number 99, Wayne Gretzky.
I just need to glide on top like I used to. Okay. Oh, you got left side. What do you think this is?
All right, thanks guys. Very good luck today, man. Keep warm.
Try to.
Yeah, good. Good luck, man.
One more.
Flower.
Wayne!
Hey, hey! Oh, sorry, Steph. I got Andy. I got Simmer.
No, you don't.
Huh? I got Simmer.
Andy's playing right.
Who's playing right?
Thought Andy was. They're playing off wings. Okay. I got Simmer.
I got Andy.
You don't know which right wing anyway, Marty.
Who's in net for them? I was gonna say that doesn't look like Dryden. Those goggles the Rats got on.
Right at your feet there. Right at your feet, Ronnie. No, right at your feet. Your feet. The puck. The puck. Jesus.
Hey! Hey!
Hey!
Rat always gets big goals.
Rat, Marty, and you. You need the trees to watch me.
That's it.
You need the trees. Oh no, bad pitch. Bad pitch. Oh! Some things don't change. Jersey's holding us in there.
Jesus! Goaltending's unreal.
Is that 15 minutes yet?
Kick it in the net!
To the synergy sticks.
You know, they couldn't find my pattern for some reason.
Warmer than playing a regular game. Because you're on the bench, you're warm. You get out there, you go.
Yeah. It's like kind of like a nice warm cold combination.
I like it.
Once again, another team effort.
The bench is good. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. It's warming up. Yeah, good. Oh, it's something when you look at that. Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Oh, Billy!
Go Rat.
It's squirrely!
Make sure the sticks are okay.
Battle, battle! Attaboy, Andy, way to pick it out of there.
Oh, yeah. We soundly out
played them, didn't we? Lauren?
Hey, a lot of fun, buddy.
Wow, is it ever.
Hey, Jay! Oh, it's wide open. You're up the middle. You're up the middle. Next game. That's the winner hockey. That's the winner hockey, boys. What were you doing? Shut up. Shut up.
Thanks for coming, man. Oh, that was awesome. Thank you. It couldn't have been any better without you guys. Hey, thanks for Louis, Cup.
This was great.
What do we got there? That was my pleasure. That was great. Thank you. Good. Marty? Steve? Thank you. That was great. Knuckles? How you? Good goal.
Hey, good job, man. All right, very good. That was fun. Very nice, man. Great job. All right, let's get a team picture. We'll get a team picture.